So just to give you a warning that the battery might run out at some point. So I'm like, I didn't bring my entire cord. You know, the apple cord's like break in two and you have two pieces. So I just brought one piece because I'm clever like that. So that's what we're dealing with today. All right. Okay. So let's just settle in, getting mind and body together. So we want to begin with our bodhicitta motivation. Bodhicitta is a Sanskrit word. Bodhi means awakened or enlightened, and citta means the mind and heart together. So bodhicitta literally means enlightened mind, heart, but the definition is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, along with the determination to do whatever is necessary towards that goal, to reach that goal. If that seems a little bit far out or a little bit much, we can at least just think, may the time we spend together today benefit not only ourselves, but all beings as well, or others as well. Okay. So for those of you on YouTube, you can put in the chat if you have a question. And here, are there any questions today? No? Cool. Nothing? Cool. I expected you to have a question. No? Okay. All right, Taylor. Anything?
I guess I'm just curious about your background and the group's background. You want to share that?
Oh, actually, a couple weeks ago, I went into that in pretty big detail. So you can find the video on YouTube, but I'll be brief. I try to be brief.
Yeah.
So was born and raised in Cleveland, Catholic. Left the Catholic Church in my early 20s. Traveled around Asia in my 20s. Ended up, I went and taught English in Japan for 2 years after college. And after that, I went to Thailand and I did a Buddhist retreat there in Thailand. And that's when I really got into it. Then I traveled in India and then back to America. And then I ended up in France and kind of fell into doing a 3-year retreat in France, unplanned. An unplanned retreat, kind of like an unplanned pregnancy.
Yeah.
And after that, I ordained, and then I did a bunch more retreat, and then my teacher sent me here to share the Dharma with others, and that's when our group started. So that was in January 2006. Essentially, is when I really started teaching. We didn't have a center for a long time, and then we had like a double house on West 98th Street. And Lorraine is kind of, sort of the hood. But I enjoyed being there. One thing I really enjoyed about being there was there were always kids playing in the street, playing outside, because people can't afford PS3s and stuff like that in that kind of neighborhood, So they did what we did when we were kids, hopscotch and jump rope and whatever, and pickle in the middle or whatever the names are. And I used to walk my dog around there, and they all liked my dog. Anyways, So in 2017, we found a place in Lakewood on Detroit and Bunce, and in September, we end of September, we moved out of there because we couldn't afford it anymore. So,
Mhm.
and since then, we've been meeting here.
Thanks.
Dun, 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 dun. Cha. So that's it. That's that story. Okay. All right. Nobody on YouTube has a question? Like and subscribe. Okay. So today I wanted actually to talk about anger. Okay. And I'm going to be basing it on this text with the Bodhisattva by Shantideva. It's a really marvelous text. And I recommend this version. Let's see here. Padmakara Translation Group. Translation is the best translation. Okay. And this book is all about, it's like the seminal text on compassion in Buddhism, written by a great master called Shantideva, I believe in the 8th century. I'm not sure. I'm terrible at dates and things like that. But he has a chapter here on patience. And if this chapter is so, so helpful for generating patience, for dealing with, dealing with our anger. And, when we're angry, pardon me, we have a tendency to feel very justified in that anger, right? I'm right to be angry. I have a right to be angry, and our friends will tell us, yes, you have a right to be angry. You're correct. But what we need to understand is that while anger can be useful, I mean, like the Dalai Lama says, yes, it can be useful insofar as kind of lighting a fire under our, he didn't say it this way, but I'm saying it that way, lighting a fire under our butt, to like get up and do something, right? If we're angry at, like, we see like the injustice of things, right? Then that kind of anger can sort of get us going, but we shouldn't hold on to that. Okay. So we need to understand what anger actually is and like where it comes from and how to deal with it in a skillful way. Okay. In the West, we're typically given sort of two choices for dealing with anger, right? Either express it, which is problematic, right? Or repress it, which is also problematic, right? So in Buddhism offers a third way of that, which is to experience it. We're not trying to say like we're not allowed to feel angry or we should never feel angry or anything like that. We experience it fully and then let it go. Right? Very different approach and actually a much more healthy approach than the other ways. Um, we have a tendency to think that anger is makes us strong. It's from like a position of strength, right? Can feel quite big and muscular in our anger, but actually it makes us weak. Makes us really weak. Okay, why? For one thing, the main thing really is what it does to our mind. If we observe the mind in anger, it's very closed. I mean, look at that phrase, blind with rage, right? Blind, we're blind. We get blind. We can't see what's in front of us. We can't access our own innate wisdom and compassion. We can't access, other ways of handling it. The mind is very unsteady. It's like shaking. Okay. Versus the mind when it is calm and relaxed and spacious, right? Then we can sort of get a better overview of the whole situation, access our own inner, compassion and wisdom, and have a much better chance of actually handling what's ever happening in a skillful way. So Shantideva here, this is like one of the biggest differences between Buddhism and other systems. And that is that Buddhism offers a method for dealing with life. Every major religion has basically the same moral principles, right? Essentially, the golden rule: be kind, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't steal, don't lie, da 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 da. We've all heard it, okay? But in Buddhism, it's not just saying don't be angry. It's like, here's what to do. There's a method, you know. And this was the thing that inspired me so much when I first did my first retreat in Thailand. Okay. And that was one of the main reasons that I did that retreat, because I had such a bad temper. And I knew that it was harmful to me and it was harmful to others. And I didn't want to be in that state. And I thought, well, maybe if I learn how to meditate, I can calm down and sort of figure this stuff out and not have to deal with this issue. So when I did that retreat and I learned that there were these methods for developing other habits, I was so happy about that, to discover. Because we have a tendency to think like, I am what I am, sort of, we all have this Popeye philosophy, right? But no, we can change. We have the ability to change. We have the ability to work with our mind. All of these things that we might see as um, part of our character, part of our personality, or like who we are really just habits. Okay. And what we do through study, contemplation, and meditation in this path is what we're doing is just developing other habits. So rather than the habit of anger, we develop the habit of patience. That's it. So it's not a matter of like fighting against the anger and trying to like crush the anger. It's like looking at the anger fully, okay, and seeing the disadvantages of that, and then slowly, gradually developing more the habit of patience. And the more patience we have, the less anger we have naturally. You know what I mean? Rather than having this big struggle. Okay. So in Shantidev's, in this chapter on patience, he has all of these logical arguments against being angry. And it used to piss me off so much. Because I was like trying to work with this, when I was in a situation that, I don't need to go into, where uh uh come here, Buddha, come be near me. Thank you. Um, where I'm sorry, I'm very goofy today. I apologize. I don't know if you were expecting somebody levitating and that's not, good luck if that's what you were expecting. But yeah, because I was dealing with a situation where I was being challenged a lot and I was getting angry a lot. And I was like, what, I want to practice with this. I don't want to just fall into my old habits. So I started reading this chapter on patience, and I'd be like, because every reason that we think is a right reason to be angry, Shantideva is like a goalie, just going, nope, no, no, And one time I threw the book across the room. I was so mad, very disrespectful way. I'm better now. But anyway,
angry?
because what?
Angry.
I was angry. Yeah, because it's like we're so attached to our anger, and we want to be right, and we feel like we're just, and then Shantideva making logical arguments against that. You want to fight it if you're angry. And so, what I usually say to people is like, read this chapter when you're angry because of that, because all your reasons are right there at the top and you have easy access to them. But also read this chapter when you're not angry, so you don't get pissed off So no, but so maybe you could, kind of have a broader view of it, and not be so narrow about it. Okay. So there's a teacher called Songtsen Rinpoche. Have any of you guys heard of him? Yes, you guys have. No, Songtsen Rinpoche. Anyway, he says, like, why do we study? Why do we have to study? You know, And he said, because we're not always going to feel, we're not always going to be like inspired to practice, you know, we're not always just going to feel like it. So we need this kind of logical arguments to shore ourselves up so that we can continue, so that we can practice even when we don't feel like practicing. Okay. So here, um, Shantideva, in the beginning, he just talks about like how um, what are the downsides of being an angry person, you know? And he says, they never know tranquility of mind. It's true. They don't sleep well. They don't feel secure. Um, even those, and it's written in verse also, even those dependent on their Lord for gracious gifts of honors and of wealth will rise against and slay a master who is filled with wrath and hate. So I don't know. Just be nice to your servants, you guys, okay? Don't be angry with your servants. Anyway, um, then he talks about here he talks about what is the fuel of anger. Okay, he says, getting what I do not want, and all that hinders my desire. In discontent, my anger finds its fuel. From this, it grows and beats me down. So that's such an interesting point to look at when we're angry. Why am I angry? You know, if we pull that apart step by step and go deeper and deeper, well, because of this. Yeah, but why that? Because this, but why that? The bottom line is always, I'm not getting what I want, you know. And we need to do this for ourselves and not just listen to me or Shantideva or somebody is just saying and just accept, okay, that's true. We should examine this for ourselves and see if that's true or not. Okay. Um, Then he says that so we should get rid of that. We should essentially generate contentment, you know, rather than um, feeding this um, notion that we should just get whatever we want whenever we want it. It's a very childish, way of being, actually, if we look at it. And this is one of my favorite verses. He says, uh, if there is a remedy when trouble strikes, what reason is there for dejection? And if there is no help for it, what use is there in being glum? I love this verse so much. I used to have it pinned on my computer on post-it because what he's saying essentially is if you can do something about it, why be upset? Because you can do something about it, right? And if you can't do something about it, why be upset? You can't do anything about it, you know? And it's such a helpful idea that we can apply to kind of many different types of situations. Okay. Um, so then he just talks about like working with anger and working with actually our own suffering, right? And saying essentially like there's nothing that does not grow light through habit and familiarity. Putting up with little cares, I'll train myself to bear with great adversity. So, if we want to work with our anger, he's saying essentially just start small. We could start by, um, you know, just working with small frustrations. You know, either with ourselves or with others. Oh, I can't believe I'm late again, or um, oh, I don't even learn how to drive, or, whatever our thing is, and work with those things, these little things. And then gradually, the bigger things, we'll be able to handle the bigger things easier, right? More skillfully. Um, uh, so, and this is another nice argument, too. he's like essentially saying like, uh, I don't get angry at inanimate objects, you know, like he brings up this whole thing about a stick. Let's see if I can find it. So the way that he puts it here is that I'm not angry with, now remember this is like 8th century or something. I'm not angry with my bile and other humors, fertile source of suffering and pain. So why should living beings give offense? They likewise are impelled by circumstances. Um, Never thinking now I will be angry, people are impulsively caught up in anger. Irritation likewise comes, though never plans to be experienced. So conditions, once assembled, have no thought that they will now give rise to some result, nor does that which is engendered think that it has been produced. So essentially, he's saying like we don't get angry at like a thunderstorm or bad weather or um, you know some pain we have in our knee. We don't get angry at those things, because we understand like it's just that's how things are. There's a storm. This my knee hurts. Whatever. But we get very angry at people because we think they have control. You're doing this on purpose, and so now I'm angry with you. And he's saying, actually, no. We're all caught up in our delusion, in our ignorance, in our habitual patterns, right? And if we look at like ourselves when we are angry, we can remember a time in the past um, when we've been angry and maybe we said something that we regret to someone that we love, for example. Okay. If we think about that, it's very easy for us to say, well, I couldn't help it. You know, we make excuses really quickly because we know where we are, we know what's happening in our own mind, and we want everyone to give us the benefit of the doubt. I was very tired, I wasn't feeling well, a bunch of other things went wrong, and this was the last straw, you know, which is valid. I'm not saying that's not valid. I'm just saying that for ourselves, we can see that we did not choose to be angry. We did not really choose to lash out. But for others, our first thought is, you did that on purpose. Okay. So he's saying here with the example he gives of a stick, it's like he says, if somebody hits you with a stick, who are you going to be mad at? Well, you're going to be mad at the person wielding the stick. And he's like, oh, you're not mad at the stick? And they're like, no, I'm not mad at the stick. The stick was controlled by the person. The stick has nothing to do with it. And he's like, yeah, but the person was controlled by their emotions. So you shouldn't be mad at the person. You should be mad at the person's anger. Okay. Which sounds a little, whatever, weird. But it's true if you think about it. If you put your mind to that and think about it. You know, Nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, God, I hope I get pissed off today. Nobody. We don't want to. We know that it's unpleasant. Okay. We know that we don't want to feel that way. And yet one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and then we're lashing out. It's the same for everyone. Okay. So that's another kind of logical argument. Um, mhm. If things could be according to their wish, no suffering would ever come to any one of all embodied beings, for none of them wants pain of any kind. Mm. Oh yeah, this is another one I like a lot. So here we're talking about like people that we're angry at. Okay, and he says, if those who are like wanton children are by nature prone to injure others, there's no reason for our rage. It's like resenting fire for being hot. And if their faults are fleeting and contingent, if living beings are by nature mild, it's likewise senseless to resent them, as well be angry at the sky when it is full of smoke. So here he's saying, if someone's always nasty, let's say, why be angry with them like that's how they always are? If someone's usually really kind and they have a flare up of some kind, why be angry? Like that's not how they normally are. You might as well be angry at the sky for having clouds or smoke in it, you know? Is this hitting? I feel like it's not hitting. It is? Okay.
It's getting through. It's helpful.
Okay. Good. Oh yeah, here it is. Although it is their sticks that hurt me, I am angry at the ones who wield them, striking me. But they in turn are driven by their hatred. Therefore, with their hatred, I should take offense. Yeah. Then he talks about karma, which is a very big subject that we don't have time for. So, this book is falling. See, 25. I read this is book I've had for a really long time, and chapter 6 is falling apart. I read it so many times. So we'll just end there. But I think that if you only have one Buddhist book, this is the one to have. You know, it's so beautiful, really, and it's so full of wisdom and, you know, really helpful, practical ways of being and ways of seeing the world. Any questions before we go on to meditation? Yes.
I just, this is a comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that as you were talking, I was thinking sometimes anger's sibling is resentment, because resentment will feed your anger. So you get into this circle of, well, as you said, so-and-so did this, and then you just keep building it up, and you can actually build yourself into a rage.
Right.
Just by the resentment that you would be carrying. So that's why I say that anger and resentment are siblings.
Yeah, definitely. Resentment
So-
is just a form of
I have
anger.
to remind myself that if I am angry,
Mhm.
if I see that I'm angry and I'm able to stop it, I also have to see that am I building resentment, which will lead to more anger.
Right. So this is where meditation really comes in handy. So I know that do you have any experience with meditation?
Like formally in a group? No.
No, or at home?
Yes, at home.
I know. Okay. So we're going to do mindfulness breathing practice, and then we're going to do Tonglen practice, practice of exchange. But one of the most helpful things about mindfulness of breathing practice. So mindfulness of breathing practice is essentially just taking the meditation posture, focusing on the breath, on the sensation of the breath, and letting the thoughts come and go. Okay. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? So that's why we have to practice. Otherwise, you know, we would just be able to do it on the spot just by thinking of it. So one of the effects of meditating is that we start to become more aware of what's happening in our own mind. And we are quicker to recognize. So we become more aware and we recognize more quickly what is happening in our own mind. Okay. So for an example of what Lucy was saying, usually what happens is some irritation arises. So, you know, anger doesn't just come out of the blue like a lightning strike, right? It actually starts small, but we don't notice it, right? If we're talking about rage in this case, let's say, we don't notice that beginning just irritation, you know, and something we find annoying, irritating. And instead of just letting that go, recognizing it and letting it go, we feed it unconsciously or subconsciously. We feed that, you know. We remember, let's say we wake up in the morning before work, and while we're getting ready for work, we remember what some nasty thing somebody said to us, okay? And as we're taking a shower and drinking our coffee and driving to work, whatever, we're just, oh, they said this and they said that, and I should have said this, and next time I see them, and I remember when I was 12, so-and-so said this, you know, and we're just like, vroom, 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 and we don't recognize it because we're not paying attention what's happening in our own mind, right? And then we get to work and we just sit at our desk, and somebody comes by and says hello, and we're like, ah, just start like screaming at this person. We're like, what happened? And we're also going, what happened? Oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought it was totally calm, because we didn't recognize that feeding, right? So if we're doing this meditation and we're just maintaining awareness of the breath to the best of our ability, letting the thoughts come and go, then we become, as I was saying before, we notice the irritation more quickly. And it's much easier to deal with something when it's small than when we're in the middle of a rage, right? At that point, like we can't really control it at that point. Okay. So that's one of the many ways that, meditation really helps. Another thing is, through meditation, we get to know our own mind in many different states of mind. It's one of the reasons why it's so important to try to meditate every day, because we're not always going to feel like meditating. Honestly, if we feel like meditating, we probably don't really need to meditate at that point. We're like, "Hi, I'm feeling very cool, very groovy. I'm going to put on some incense and meditate." Okay, well, nice, good for you. But like, we should be meditating when we're angry, when we're grieving, when we're bored, when we're tired, when we're sick. All the different states of mind, because that's what's going to help us deal with all that stuff, right? So uh, uh, so what? Why did you say that, Palmo? I don't know. Anyway, you get the point. Okay, so let's do some meditation. All right. So we're all sitting in chairs. If you want to sit on the floor, there are cushions there for you. But if you want to stay in a chair, that's fine. So if you're sitting on the floor, do you just want your feet, your legs crossed in whatever way is comfortable for you? If we're in a chair, we just want our feet flat on the floor. And all the other instructions are the same, whether you're um, on the floor or not. Um, so the hands can be either palms down on the knees, or palms up, resting one on top of each other like that in your lap, or with your fingers on top and your thumbs touching like you're holding a goose egg, whatever's most comfortable for you. Arms are relaxed. The back is straight. So the back of the neck is also straight, so the chin's going to be tucked in a little bit. The shoulders should be back a little bit. So what I do for that is I just roll my shoulders back one time, and it sort of opens up the chest, makes it easier to breathe. The mouth is closed but relaxed, tongue resting on the roof of the mouth, breathing through the nose. Ideally, the eyes are open, looking down, like half closed, however you want to think of it. The lowered, relaxed gaze. If that's not comfortable for you, just go ahead and close. That's okay. But over time, it's good to learn to meditate with them open. Okay, so that's the posture. And we take this posture because it helps the mind in meditation. So we want to bring awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. That's going to be focus of our awareness. So again, the instruction is to maintain, to the best of your ability, continuous awareness of that sensation of the breath, letting the thoughts arise, dwell, and disappear on their own without following after them and getting distracted. When you find yourself distracted, the moment you realize that, simply bring the mind back to the breath without judgment. Okay? So I'll ring the gong to start and also to finish. Now you can begin to count the breaths, counting either every in breath or every out breath for a total of 10 complete breaths. Counting helps us to realize more quickly if we've gotten distracted because we will have lost count. So if that happens, we lose count, no big deal. Just bring the mind back, start again at 1. If we get to 10 without losing count, don't let that distract you. Just bring the mind back and start again at 1. So please begin that now. Body should be as relaxed as possible while maintaining the posture. Mind should be as relaxed as possible while maintaining awareness of the breath. Very spacious, including everything that you're experiencing, but mainly focusing on the breath. Okay. So, I want to discuss that for a minute, but I am seriously running out of battery now. So, for those of you on YouTube, I'm going to close this down right now, and I'm going to see if I can start another one on my phone, but I've never done that before. So, try back in a couple minutes, and we'll do our best. Okay, so thank you for showing up. And next week, there will be no meditation. The following week will be just online, just on YouTube, our YouTube channel, Songtsen Gampo Buddhist Center. And then the week after that is going to be family meditation. So if you have kids or you know somebody who has kids, we'll be meeting here for family meditation on December, I think it's the 14th. Yes, the 14th. Okay. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, it would be good to sign up for the newsletter. Then that's the best way to keep up to date on everything. So I'm going to end the stream and try to restart on my phone.